Rose McGowan took to Twitter to call out Oprah. Over the weekend, she tweeted, "I'm glad more seeing the ugly truth of Oprah. I wish she were real, but she isn't. From being pals with Weinstein to abandoning and destroying Russell Simmons victims, she is about supporting a sick power structure for personal gain. She's as fake as they come. #Lizard." Multiple women have accused Russell Simmons of sexual assault and misconduct. Last year, Oprah resigned as executive producer from a 2020 documentary about the accusations following a concerted public pressure campaign from 50 Cent and Simmons himself to discredit the film.
McGowan's criticisms come as the Me Too movement weathers the resignation of Time's Up CEO and president Tina Chen. Chen and Time's Up publicly supported Oprah and Simmons' accusers when Oprah stepped away from the documentary. But the Daily Beast reports that privately, Chen bashed the project, even calling an accuser to pressure her into stepping away from the documentary. Culture editor at The Federalist, Emily Jashinsky, joins us now to weigh in. Emily, what do you make of all this?
This is getting at something really important, and let's just start with Time's Up. Time's Up was always staffed and run by people that are thoroughly enmeshed in the existing power structure, which is a power structure, by the way, that they were purporting to challenge, and it was just never going to happen. Everybody who was watching this from the beginning that understands how these things work could have told you this was never going to happen. This reporting is like the most predictable stuff in the world that the Daily Beast did, and I think that one was back in April, and that's what Rose McGowan is talking about when she talks about Oprah. That power structure, I write about this all the time. The entertainment media is actually some of the worst in the media period because they valorize celebrities for access and for cheap clickbait in a way that makes them seem as though they're these moral paragons when in fact they are part of a power structure. And so that's what I like about what Rose McGowan is saying here. Now, the Russell Simmons stuff, Oprah did say she believed the documentary, and you can decide whether or not this is a BS excuse, but she said she didn't believe the documentary did enough to show what the victims endured. She used that language. So whether or not she actually believes them, it seems as though she's at least publicly saying she does, although that's sort of cagey. But the Weinstein stuff, Rose McGowan attached a picture from 2014. That's so shortly, like within like years, just a couple of years before this news about Harvey Weinstein broke in the New York Times. Everybody knew about this. All of the reporting is out there. It suggests that people knew at least about Weinstein's reputation, his creepy and abusive reputation for years. So why is Oprah kissing him on the cheek? That's a very fair question to ask. And I think what Rose McGowan is getting at is the way that we are conditioned by the entertainment news media to see celebrities as paragons of morality, when in fact they are part of a power structure that can in fact be very abusive.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point because I think a lot of people look to Oprah and think that she's some sort of I wouldn't say an advocate necessarily, but, you know, as someone who's supposed to be showcasing stories and kind of getting to the truth at things. And so people have valued Oprah's opinion, obviously. I mean, arguably one of the most powerful people in the world when it comes to influence. And so, yeah, I guess pointing out that, well, she's just a part of it. And now, she went from nothing and then she became a billionaire. And as she rose up into that, kind of rubbed elbows with these people, and those are her friends. And so she's going to protect her friends. But, part of me wonders if she never really did say she was going to be an advocate for anybody. So what can we really expect from Oprah?
It's interesting. In the wake of all of this, a clip from 2003, I think it was 2003, of Oprah defending the war in Iraq with Judith Miller. She had Judith Miller on her show and was challenged by an audience member to say, the audience member came up, asked a question, was like, well, I'm not really sure what to believe about any of this. And Oprah staunchly defended Judith Miller and defended the intelligence community. And this is on her, her daytime talk show, and said, listen, we're just telling you the facts. And I do think Oprah has, even if she's not explicit about it, taken on a journalistic capacity and has really made an effort to highlight what is implicitly, the stories of people who go through terrible things. And I think she's done a good job of it in certain cases. But think about her interview with Meghan Markle and Prince Harry. It was just she's friends with them, and you have her doing this huge primetime sit-down piece on people who are exerting a great amount of power. They're not just celebrities. They're people that have Spotify deals and Netflix deals that are seeking to produce major documentaries, big cultural moments, and Oprah just sits there and fawns over them and doesn't give them the tough questions that they actually deserve. She does that sort of the veneer of it, right? Like she'll ask, some sort of devil's advocate thing gently, and that just gives her an excuse to say, listen, I did the tough questions when you actually didn't do the tough questions. And to Kim's point, just to wrap that all together, this all comes down to the fact that when you run in these circles, you start to become protective of them. It's almost impossible to exist as a billionaire, ultra powerful celebrity, one of the most powerful people in the world, and have any sort of, you're almost always going to end up in being corrupted by the power structure in some way.
Yeah, the one thing I would say is, so I think it's kind of BS when we suggest that celebrities need to weigh in on every, political debate of the moment. Like, to be honest, I don't need to know, Taylor Swift's view on the withdrawal from Afghanistan, may it be. But, everyone with a influence platform should be supportive of the Me Too movement and should be against abuses of power. And I would argue that somebody of Oprah's stature, of course, I completely agree, Emily. Like, you're built into this power structure. You want to keep it self-sustaining. But it's much easier for someone like her to speak out and to call out these bad actors than somebody who doesn't have the power that she has. That's what's almost so cowardly about it.
Yeah, and that was what I think was always frustrating about Time's Up, which was, supposed to be the activist arm of the Me Too movement. It was full of women. And they said, we're going to start a legal defense fund for less privileged women who are in these situations. And what happens is the entire organization just starts crumbling because they can't even, amongst themselves, amongst the sort of high profile legal folks and Hollywood people, they couldn't even run an organization well because they couldn't agree on who was actually abusing their power. And I think that is a really telling sort of insight into how all of this ends up working.
Yeah, and I think that's why the world needs people like Rose McGowan, who are willing to say the uncomfortable truths about people who are raised up as heroes. When it comes to Time's Up, it was almost designed to fail from the beginning because as Rose kind of points out, you have people who are very enmeshed in this power structure, and who believe in their own goodness, who are convinced that they are ethical people who are out to do right. And people who know Tina Chen say that this is one of her great weaknesses, that she feels like, if she's making a judgment call, if she's making a decision, then it is the right decision. And even if it might appear to be the wrong decision from the outside, instrumentally it will be the right thing in the future. And so that's how you wind up with somebody who, fancies herself to be an advocate for survivors, coming after accusers in this situation with Russell Simmons, or backing Andrew Cuomo, or otherwise, having the organization get caught up in the axle of Democratic politics. And so it just feels like the only way to do this is to completely divorce it from the power structure. But once the structure had its kind of arms around the GoFundMe, the $20+ million, and became the face of it, it was very difficult to get an organization that was actually going to challenge power. Do you think it's too late to get that kind of organization going, Emily?
Yeah, I think so, because to Ryan, to your point, you said it exactly as it is. It was designed to fail from the beginning, because when you are, taking the people that do have the capacity and the power and the resources and the credibility to head up an organization like this, they are enmeshed in the apparatus of Democratic politics. That's what happens. And, some of them are going to be enmeshed in the political establishment, period, whether it's Democrats or Republicans. And that's actually a pretty interesting part of the whole Weinstein scandal, is that nobody challenged him for years, despite this reputation. Meryl Streep says, we didn't know the extent of it. We knew he had a reputation for being a bully, is what a lot of celebrities have said, but we didn't know that there were rape allegations, which I would call BS on, first of all. But that's how this always went along, right? It's because there was no Rose McGowan, who then could get, enough people in the media who wouldn't be pressured out of it because, he sent Andy Lack or Noah, what's his name at NBC, a bottle of vodka. And it implied, don't publish that Ronan Farrow story, or don't go there. And this is how it just went along for years and years and years, whether it's Weinstein or other people, because you have people who do think they do the right thing. But when they know somebody, and when it's a case-by-case basis, where they're doing these cost-benefit analyses, where it's like, is it worth it for me to do this? Is it worth it? Do we really know? I know this person. I know, he would never do this, blah, blah, blah. You can go down the list. Then they are way too cowardly, even people who say that they want to do the right thing when it comes to the case-by-case stuff. So they don't even recognize their own blind spots. And that's really how power perpetuates power.
Yeah, and I want to point out, I don't think Rose McGowan has very many friends. And I think that's how you have to be. If you're going to be a journalist or an advocate or even a politician, I think you got to accept that those jobs are lonely, and they should be lonely, so that you can challenge.
Completely.
Oh, and she's lost tons of opportunities too. Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. 100% agree with that.
Well, Emily, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, guys.
And we'll have more Rising for you right after this.